Costin here with a discussion about Heinrich Kemmler and why his campaign is so awesome in Total War Warhammer 3 Immortal Empires. First off, we have to consider his starting situation in a campaign. See, he starts with the Blackstone post right there, and that allows him to recruit Raise Dead in that province. Then he can go in Montfort and recruit even more Raise Dead. And then his initial enemy is in Artois, which is, as you guessed it, even more Raise Dead. And that starts getting ridiculous when you add all those numbers up, because the combination of being able to recruit in 3 different provinces Raise Dead is absolutely ridiculous. It allows you to have a significant level of force very quickly, very early on in your campaign that others, even including someone like Vlad or Isabella, is certainly more than Gorst, others just don't match. And that in itself is a fairly awesome level of power, which allows you to take control of over a vast swath of territory very quickly, without even needing to fight for it, because due to the sheer number of undead skeletal warriors, zombies, fellbats, you name it, you will just be swimming in units. This is what makes him so very dangerous to deal with as a legendary lord when you're playing, say, a Lewin campaign or a Karl Franz campaign, is that he will have those units. And while it might not necessarily seem all that dangerous, I mean, think of the fact that you do have this number of troops very quickly, very early on in your campaign. And there is no way that Artois over here is going to be able to stand up against the sheer number of zombies, and that in itself is a fairly ludicrous level of power that other campaigns just do not have. Again, that is not something you generally see in a lot of campaigns, just that sheer level of capability that you do start out with so very quickly, so very early on in a campaign like this one. And that's just the start of the situation that you do have to deal with as Kemmler, because it gets even better once you start going into the weeds of this campaign, and once you really start discovering the capability that he does have available. Because you also have the Red Duke close enough to you. You could make a military alliance with him, or you can leave him to be devoured a bit by Lewin Leoncoeur, and that may give you a confederation with him, which in turn would give you Musalon, but very importantly would give you the best blood dragon in the game, because that's what the Red Duke is. He's a blood dragon. He has the same skill line as all other blood dragons do in the game, but he doesn't have the limitation of the other blood dragon lords in the game, in that he has the ability of going for both skill lines. In fact, he is actually a much better legendary lord than Manfred could dream of, because blood dragons in themselves are pretty strong and capable lords, but when you give them that extra capability, it gets even better, really, in a campaign. Sure, it is a bit, it comes with a cost, if you will, and it can hurt you to some degrees, like over there, Lewin taking this territory from Musalon, hurting you in the process as a result of that. But that's kind of just part of the plan, so to speak. Weaken him, get that level of capability, get those number of necromancers, get the ball rolling in Kemmler's campaign. And that's what makes this such a really fine campaign to play, such an awesome campaign to play, compared to so many others in the game as a whole. Forget the vampire counts. I'm actually talking about them in general. On top of that, his climate situation favors him going around the world. He has temperate, mountain, wasteland, and desert. And that means he has a vast swath of territory next to him that is ripe for the taking. He's really the world traveler, if you will. Now, of course, what also adds to his world traveler capability is that in terms of Lord effects, he has replenishment in foreign territory, which is pretty useful when you consider the fact that having that will allow you to traverse larger land masses faster than everyone else. And then you get Krell, because he is a magic lord, and that is quite a capability, but he's a magic lord that has a very strong summoned hero that follows him around. And so he has both magical capability and melee capability in combat. And Krell, that is perhaps the important question really with Kemmler. What is going to happen to Krell once Lords of the End Times comes out? But for now, at the very least, he does have Krell, and his combat ability can be greatly increased, provided you get the special skill line. And obviously, you would want to do so. He also has a bunch of benefits for Wraiths and Whites. So he gets hero capacity for White Kings, hero recruitment for White Kings in all provinces, so you can just get the special skill line, get White Kings all across the world, even if he's starting to move towards, say, Sylvania, if you want to go teach Vlad a lesson in this campaign. And then you get magical item drop chance, as well as devastating flanker for Kin Wraiths, Morgulls, and Hex Wraiths. And then on top of that, he also gets Greater Arcane Conduit, wins a magic power reserve capacity, and raises cost minus 35%. He is really the master at raising the dead, because you can combine this then with Thrall Master, which reduces the recruitment cost and raises dead cost as well. And then on top of that, he gets an upkeep benefit for skeletal warriors and skeletal spearmen, as well as zombies. Much has been talked about with respect to Gorst's capability in terms of raising the dead, but I think a lot of people neglect to mention just how useful Kemmler's capability is in terms of raising the dead as well. And that is not something to really be underestimated in a campaign, because it will get you very, very far away. And also, because of the sheer number of factions, minor factions, major factions that are all around you, you will end up having both a good supply of blood kisses. Like, for instance, if you take Grunzint, which you want to complete your province, but if you take Grunzint, that's one blood kiss. If you deal with Lewin, that's another blood kiss. If you deal with Marienburg, Baston, the dwarves over here, those are all blood kiss capabilities, which in turn will give you access to these bloodlines in your campaign. So really, when we're looking at the whole package of incentive structure, campaign pacing, options, choices, and viability, Kemmler really gets things done. I'm really curious to see what Creative Assembly will be doing for him in Lords of the End Times, but I suppose that is something to be determined once they really start talking about Lords of the End Times, and once they start showing off various things. I mean, he does get experience gain for Necromancer heroes. He gets immunity to Chaos Corruption and Diplomatic Relations for Warriors of Chaos, or just Chaos in general. And that gives him a further diplomatic capability in his campaign as well that other vampire counts don't have. So you can ally Chaos if you want to. You can ally the Order Tide if you want to, because you do have the Lamian Lords, which give you diplomatic relations with the Empire, Keys of Cathay, and Bretonnia. Those choices do exist. And that is really perhaps what Kemmler should be in Lords of the End Times. Kind of like that balance point where you can choose to go either way, like you could go with Chaos. Lore-wise, Kemmler did choose to side with Chaos in the End Times, but maybe that's the decision he should be able to make differently in Lords of the End Times where you don't have to side with Chaos. You can go your own path. You can go serve Nagash. You can try and help the Empire if that's your thing. You know, help the Order Tide. Or just do your own thing where you're a free agent. And maybe that's really what Kemmler's campaign should be all about. That kind of choice, that versatility of choice. Because he really is not tied to any particular master or any specific interest the same way, say, Vlad is tied to, or Manfred even is tied to. I mean, Manfred pretends that he's free, but in reality, he's very much shackled to the will of Nagash. Would be interesting if Kemmler could become a Mortarch by choice, but certainly not something you would start with. But if you want to serve Nagash, that could be a path Creative Assembly could take him on. That is all I had to say on the subject. Costin here signing out, and I'll see you boys and girls next time. If you have any ideas, the suggestion box is wide open right in the comments below. If you want me to cover any specific lord or any specific campaign, I'll see you on the next one.